Welcome back, everyone. This is Mindy Eggen here today for Lawn Fawn, and in today's video we are going to be creating a scene for a baby card using the new Magic Iris and Magic Iris add-on. I am going to start by coloring up my images for my card. I'll be using the stamp set Little Fireflies and Swan Soirée. And I did stamp these images out already onto some white cardstock by Lawn Fawn, and I stamped them in the jet black ink, which is Copic friendly. I will have all of the colors I'm using listed above. I do speed through the coloring quite a bit just because this is an interactive card, which takes a little bit more time, so I wanted to make sure I included everything in here for you. Now the fireflies, I colored all at once, and the same with the cattails. I just went through and added the same color to each one. It just helped speed up the process. And for the swans, they're white, and I did Google the colors for each of these and their babies. And white can be kind of tricky. What I'm using for them are some W's, so the warm grays. I did W2, 1, 0, and 00, and I'm just adding a very light amount of this to the swans. I didn't want them to look dirty in a sense, but once you get them added to the scene, it really pulls it together where it looks like they're white and you are seeing them as shadows. So once I have all of those colored in, I'm going to take the coordinating die for each of these, hold it in place with the low tack tape, and run that through my die cut machine. And since I did have multiples of the cattails and the fireflies, I went ahead and removed the die and then ran those back through my machine to cut each of those out. I'm going to start working on my scene first. I'm going to ink blend some Distress Oxide colors onto a piece of white cardstock. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, starting with the blueprint sketch. And I'm just using a blender brush to put a light amount there towards the center of the card. I'm not going too far down just because I know that's going to be covered up. Then I'm going to come in with a chipped sapphire, starting from the top and blending down. And I do go back and forth between the two to help make those two blend together a little bit better. And I wanted it a little bit darker at the top, so I did bring in some black soot. Once I have that done, I'm going to take the Magic Iris add-on and die cut my panel from that. I'm going to keep both that centerpiece and the front cover, and I want to add some stars, but to change things up a little bit, I'm going to bring in some perfect pearls. This is in blue hydrangea. So I just took a little bit out, put it on my craft sheet, spritzed down some water and mixed that up really well. And then I'm going to flick this all over my background. And it is a very pearly, iridescent shine to it. It almost looks like it's glowing. So this was a nice change up, and it was really, really pretty to add to my night sky. And I'm also adding it to that little centerpiece because I'll be using that later. Next, I'm going to take a piece of mermaid cardstock and die cut that add-on out of that as well. We are going to be creating some waves with that, and I'm also die cutting that add-on panel with the rainforest cardstock. Then I'm going to bring in the stitched simple wavy border, line up about where I want it to be on my card front, and run that through the die cut machine. And I forgot that I also needed to die cut for my center, so I had just lined that up so that it matches with the rest of my scene. Then I'm going to take that rainforest panel and I'm going to die cut the cattails border out of that. And I'm going to die cut the actual cattails from chocolate bar cardstock. So since I had quite a bit of ink blending going on, I wanted to add a little bit of depth to my waves. So I'm just lightly ink blending on the peacock feathers just towards the top of my waves. Then I'm going to stamp my sentiment right away. So I am using this sentiment Welcome Little One off of that Swan Soirée stamp set. I'm going to line that up on my card front, pick that up with the Door of the Misty, and then I'm going to prep my panel with an anti-static powder tool. This just helps so the embossing powder only sticks to my embossing ink. so that I can ink up my sentiment, close the door, and lightly press down to stamp that down. And I am going to stamp it again a second time just to make sure that I have good coverage. Then I can sprinkle on the Lawn Fawn white embossing powder, and I'll heat that with my heat tool, and this stands out so nice against that dark background that I created. Now I'm going to work on some of the assembly of my card front. So I added my cattails on. Then I'm going to add on my waves, and I'm not going to push down all the way at the top. I want to put my little cattails, tuck them back there. So just using some liquid glue, and that way I can just carefully peel back that top wave and tuck those in, adding some fireflies around the area and up by my sentiment. Then I'll be working on adding my swans. Now there's 2 swans I set off on the side, the mama and the baby. But I have the other one down below with 2 other little babies, and then I'm going to have the cattails on top of that. So once I have that done, I'll kind of just set that off on the side and work on this centerpiece. This is what's going to show when my magic iris opens. So I added that little bit of wave piece that I die cut, and then I'm adding the mom and the baby just with the liquid glue. So I love how this scene is coming together. Now I can work on the actual interactive part. So I have the 3 circles cut from white cardstock. I have the 3 hot dog shapes cut from the white cardstock, 3 of the stabilizers, and then also the piece for the actual mechanism to open our magic iris. So starting with just one of the circles, I'm going to die cut that flux capacitor. I'm sorry, I love that description. That makes me smile. I absolutely love how Kelly called it the flux capacitor. So I'm lining that up in the center of this circle, holding that in place with the Post-it tape and running that through the die cut machine. Now, when my iris was opening when I was testing this, I could see the white edges of this. You could use dark cardstock, but I decided to just take some of that chipped sapphire and I'm just ink blending the very inner edges of that circle. That's just going to match my scene. I'm also doing that to the 3 hot dog shape pieces that I have. I'm making sure to stay away from that X that is die cut on there. I wasn't sure how well a glue dot would stick to it, so I stayed away from that. That way, this also is going to match my sky. So taking those tabs, I'm going to insert into the slots that we die cut, and we can see that that's shaping around that inner circle. And I will follow with the second one, insert that tab into the slot, and my third one. And just making sure that everything lines up and forms around that inner circle. Then I'm taking a glue dot and adding that right on top of the X. Now mine I thought were small enough and they were not. My iris doesn't close all the way on this particular one. It's not really bad. It still all works really well, but definitely try and get those mini ones that Kelly recommends. Once my glue dots are in place, I'm going to take another one of those circles and I'm going to add it right on top, just kind of holding those pieces down to make sure that they're formed, and then just pushing down to secure those in place on the glue dots. Once we have that done, we are going to add our stabilizers. So I flipped this over and I'm taking the tape runner and I'm putting down some adhesive from where that notch is. There's 3 of them there. So just running straight down, then taking the stabilizer and adding that to each of those spots. Now I really like the tape runner because if I put too much down, I can kind of move that with my finger, remove a little bit of that excess tape runner. And then we can flip this over and we are going to add our tab. So just picking one of those stabilizers, going right next to it, lining up the curved edge of our tab with the curved inner circle part, making that small V at the very bottom, and then I can push down to attach that. Then just taking that third circle, placing it on top, I can put some adhesive on all of those stabilizers And then we can just gently hug these around and making sure that they don't go all the way to the middle. So on each of those, just gently folding those in and pushing down. Once that is done, I will give it a test run to make sure that everything is working. And once I'm satisfied with that, then I'm going to take the additional piece that needs to die cut my arrow. And I'm going to take, I had a spare white circle from one of my pieces I had die cut. So I'm going to use that spare circle and just ink blend quick on there with some chipped sapphire. That way that matches my card. And then I can run that extra piece through. So I'll put some adhesive on that, line that curved edge up, push that down, and then just trim off that excess. And this is going to line up flush with the edge of our card. So our magic iris is created. I'm going to take the tape runner and add adhesive all around the top of this. And then I'm taking my card panel that I created, making sure that that arrow edge is flush with the edge of our card and that my circle is centered. And then giving that a test run. See, it doesn't close all the way. I'm not quite sure what that was, but I'm happy with it. I put a lot of work into this, so it's good for me. Now I'm just lining up my front card panel here on a piece of white cardstock. I don't have it attached yet, and I'm taking that inner circle piece and I put adhesive on the back. So I pushed that down to where I want it to go on the front of my card. And a lot of this is just wiggling a little bit, kind of prying that away. And that honestly is cute on its own too for a card front if you're looking for something simple to create. But that just helped me with the placement. Then I'm going to take some foam squares. I have 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom, making sure they're not in the way of my magic iris. And then adding tape runner just to those stabilizers. And then I can line that up with the front of my card. So I made sure that that was open so I could see everything. And this is our finished product. It works smoothly. I love the scene that it created. These are really so much fun to create and to play with. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and this really cute little baby card, and I know exactly who I'm going to send it to. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.